Jerusalem is shaking. In the dead of night, the Mount of Olives split wide open. No sirens, no warning, no earthquake. Just a flawless fracture tearing the holy mountain from east to west, exactly as Zechariah foretold. Scientists are stunned, authorities are silent, but eyewitnesses swear they saw light rising from the crack and heard trumpet-like sounds in the air. If prophecy has just stepped out of the Bible and onto the streets of Jerusalem, then what happens next? One moment, the Mount of Olives stood in silence. The next, a scar ripped across its face, clean, flawless, and running exactly east to west. No shaking, no rumble, no natural buildup. It was as if the earth obeyed a command. Seismologists scrambled to check their instruments, but nothing appeared. No fault lines shifted, no tectonic plates moved. Yet the mountain had torn itself apart, exactly as the prophet Zechariah declared thousands of years ago. Satellite images confirmed what witnesses already knew. A valley was forming in real time, a corridor etched across holy ground. Authorities rushed to seal the area, blocking journalists and rerouting flights over Jerusalem. But fragments of footage leaked online, grainy clips of the glowing rupture spreading like wildfire. If this was not an earthquake, then what was it? Within hours, Israeli security forces locked down the Mount of Olives. Barriers went up, soldiers patrolled the roads, reporters were turned away. The official explanation? None. Government channels remained silent, while whispers spread online of something extraordinary happening on sacred ground. Witnesses described more than a crack. They spoke of a glow, golden, alive, pulsing from the fracture like a heartbeat. A guard on night patrol swore the ground vibrated beneath his boots, steady as breath, as if the earth itself had come alive. A tourist collapsed in tears, saying she had never prayed before, but in that moment she could not stop crying out to God. Authorities tried to contain the story, but shaky phone videos slipped through, light shifting in the darkness, shadows moving where they shouldn't. If officials refused to explain, could prophecy itself be speaking louder than science? Those who stood close to the mountain insist it wasn't silent. The crack came with a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. Not the grinding roar of shifting rocks, not thunder rolling through the sky. It was deeper, older, like the earth itself exhaled after holding its breath for centuries. Some described it as a low hum, others as a roar, but many agreed it carried the tone of trumpets. Not man-made horns, not echoes of metal. A resonance that felt unearthly, reverberating through the body, calling from another realm. A young woman from Brazil said the sound dropped her to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She had never opened a Bible, but that night she whispered, "The King is coming." If the earth is now sounding trumpets, what are they announcing, and who are they summoning? From deep within the fracture, a light rose upward, golden, pulsing, alive. It wasn't artificial. It wasn't the reflection of city lamps. Witnesses said it breathed like a heart, swelling and fading with an eternal rhythm. Security footage leaked by someone on the inside shows the glow spilling into the night sky as if the earth had been hiding fire beneath its skin. Locals whispered it looked alive, a presence rather than a phenomenon. Some felt heat, others trembled as if standing before a storm. A guard confessed in hushed tones. It was like the mountain was not breaking apart, but opening up. His voice shook when he added, "It obeyed." And still, the light did not last. It vanished as suddenly as it came, leaving only the scar. But what if that glow was not just light? What if it was a signal? In the days leading up to the split, locals began reporting strange dreams. A shopkeeper near Gethsemane dreamt of a man in white with eyes like fire standing on the Mount of Olives as a valley opened beneath his feet. Others dreamt of trumpets echoing through the hills. Some awoke weeping. When the mountain cracked, many said their visions had come alive. A missionary recalled warning his congregation, only to watch the news hours later in stunned silence. Even soldiers guarding the site whispered of shadows moving against the glow and drones dropping from the sky without cause.
What unsettled them most was not what they saw, but what they felt. An unseen weight pressing down on the mountain, as if eternity itself had entered the air. If dreams foretold the split, are they also foretelling what comes after? The Mount of Olives has always been more than stone and soil. 3,000 years ago, David wept here, barefoot and betrayed. Centuries later, Solomon corrupted it with altars to foreign gods. 2,000 years ago, Jesus walked its paths, teaching of the end times, praying in agony at Gethsemane, and ascending into heaven before astonished eyes. Now, that same mountain has torn apart along the very line written in Zechariah 14. The Mount of Olives will be split in two, from east to west, forming a very great valley. For believers, this is not coincidence. This is the ticking of prophecy's clock. Every meter of the mountain is soaked in history, and now that history has split wide open. If prophecy has just stepped out of Scripture and into the soil of Jerusalem, then what chapter comes next?
Seismologists reviewed their data again and again. No tremor registered. No seismic event appeared on the charts. A split of this size without an earthquake? Impossible, they said. One anonymous geologist admitted, "It's as if the ground responded to a command." Satellite images reveal the fracture with eerie precision, stretching east to west in a perfect line, exactly as the prophecy described. Engineers noted how unusual it was for such a rupture to be so symmetrical, so clean. Even skeptics could not explain it. Meanwhile, Israel's government refused comment, fueling suspicions. Why the silence? Why seal off the mountain? Social media burned with theories, military experiments, secret excavations, even alien activity. But for millions watching, the answer was clear. If scientists cannot explain it, and officials will not explain it, then perhaps prophecy has already explained it. The split on the Mount of Olives did not stay a local mystery. Within hours, the footage spread worldwide. In Brazil, churches erupted in prayer vigils as worshippers wept watching the glowing crack on giant screens. In South Korea, entire congregations fasted through the night. In the United States, pastors declared Zechariah's prophecy was no longer future, it was unfolding now. Even outside the church, the reaction was unsettling. Social media swarmed with captions like, "Zechariah 14 is here," and "The King is coming." News anchors hesitated, waiting for official statements that never came. Meanwhile, journalists whispered of silence at the top, as if someone had pressed pause on the global press. And in Jerusalem, pilgrims flocked toward the barriers, straining for a glimpse of the scar across the holy mountain. If this is only the beginning, then what ripple will come next?
Soldiers stationed around the mount began whispering of things they could not explain. Equipment failed without reason. Drones dropped from the sky as if striking invisible barriers. Some guards swore they heard voices in languages unknown, words that carried no earthly dialect. Others described translucent figures flickering across their security feeds, walking the slopes as if waiting. An Orthodox priest who had prayed at the mount for 40 years said the atmosphere felt thick, charged, heavy, as though two invisible armies were staring each other down. Revelation 12 speaks of a war in heaven, a cosmic clash between Michael and the dragon. Could the crack on the Mount of Olives mean that war has shifted to earth? If the battle lines of prophecy have been drawn in Jerusalem, then humanity may already be standing at the edge of the final confrontation. From above, satellite images show the fracture cutting a direct line toward the Temple Mount. Believers see no accident here. Malachi 3:1 declares, "The Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple." Could the earth itself be preparing a corridor for his return? Strange clouds have begun to form over Jerusalem, moving against the wind, glowing faintly in the night sky. Worshippers call them signs of divine presence, glimpses of the same glory that once filled the Holy of Holies. But others whisper of birth pains, of prophecy's final contractions. A line has been drawn across the land, and with it across humanity itself. Some see hope, others see judgment. And as the scar across the mount deepens, one question now grips the world. If the Mount of Olives has already split, what happens when the ground shakes again?